Hi, this is Alan McKay. Welcome to episode 105. I'm speaking with Ruben Mayer, a senior effects technical director for Weta. Let's dive in. Let's dive in. Let's dive in. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
All right, welcome to episode 105. Sorry about the intro. I originally recorded it and it totally blew out the mic, so I had to record it again and it never sounded right, so I figured I'll let you pick one of them. Anyway, I'm excited for this one. It's going to be really cool. I'm speaking with a good friend of mine, Ruben Mayer, who I don't even know how long I've known Ruben for, a very long time. Super talented effects technical director who's worked for places like Mr. X in Toronto, Sony Imageworks, Weta, and dozens of other places. And this episode was really cool because we got to sit down and shoot the shit about a lot of stuff from migrating to New Zealand and working at Weta and kind of his whole career path to get to that point. And I think that is really cool because it's quite intentional in terms of how he planned out his entire career and how he's moved through it very successfully and done a lot of really amazing stuff along the way. And I actually have an episode coming up with Weta's immigration firm that they use to talk about a lot of the visa and immigration policies with New Zealand. So if you're ever curious about working out there, visiting, getting a citizenship, whatever it might be, we go really in depth with that stuff. So it's a really cool episode. Now, there's lots of really cool stuff coming up. I'm super excited, super busy, super stressed, trying to keep organized. As I mentioned, doing my whole 90-day thing, which really isn't like a 90-day thing. It's literally just how I've been organizing myself. And it's been crazy just how much I've been getting done. But at the same time, I keep throwing a spanner in the works and making things more complicated. So I'll unveil some new stuff pretty soon. But one of the big things that I will be doing with this podcast is a lot more solo episodes. And that's all I'll say for now. But if you like the podcast and if you really enjoy a lot of the value that I try to deliver with every episode, especially all of the really custom tailor-made ones specifically about certain subjects, more accurately all the solo episodes that I do, rest assured there's plenty more of those coming. And yeah, I've got some really cool announcements around that pretty soon, but I'll leave that for another week or two. But keep in mind, we're getting close to the end of the year, and I want you to start thinking about your goals as you lead into 2018, because I want December to be one of those months that we really hit hard. I'm going to be organizing a live career intensive as well as a live reel review, which you guys can partake in, and that will be a public one, which I'm really excited about. So that's going to be really cool. I'm also doing a private, longer one with everyone in my mentorship as well, but that's, a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of other cool things. I've got some new training coming out. We just finished a shoot last week for that. And it's in the middle of doing all the match moving and camera tracking and modeling and everything else that we're doing for it. And all I'll say is that this is going to be a very character-driven visual effects training series that I'm putting out for free. And it's going to be pretty amazing because there's nothing like this online at all. And I can proudly say that, and let alone the quality and the level that we're really going to hit with this. So I'm excited for that. Also, I'll be opening up registration toward the end of the year, so probably in about a month's time, maybe a little less, for the live action series. So if you didn't make it in last year, I know we sold out pretty quickly. I'll be opening up the doors for 2018, and so that's going to be pretty exciting as well. So that's all I'm going to mention for now. There's so much cool stuff coming. I'm really psyched, but I got to bite my tongue and wait a little bit longer before I can announce some of this stuff. But if you're not on the Inner Circle, my private mailing list where I give out a lot of value and I'm constantly putting out new content, you can get on that. Just go to alanmckay.com/inside to get on the list. and that's free to do, and you'll get a notification ahead of time before anyone else publicly about some of the really big announcements or the free training and other stuff like that before anyone else will hear about it. So that's your inside advantage on top of all the other value and other things that we're doing. So that is it. If you want to check out the show notes, alanmckay.com/105 for episode 105, and it will cover all the links, all the quotes, all the other good stuff from this episode. That being said, let's dive into this episode with Ruben Mayer. Okay, just quickly, one of the biggest problems that we face as artists is figuring out how much we're worth. Typically, the situation is that we go into job interviews and we're asked how much we're going to charge. We either shoot ourselves in the foot by saying that we charge less than we're worth, so that way we get the gig, and indirectly end up leaving tens of thousands of dollars accumulatively over time on the table, rather than actually asking what we should be charging. At the same time, you don't want to alienate your employers by asking for too much and leaving yourself out in the cold. So what I've done is I put together a website, check it out, www.vfxrates.com, and this is a chance for you to be able to put in your experience, your discipline, the location you're working, all the good things that will give you a fairly accurate idea of what you and everyone else should be charging in your discipline. This is something that I'm going to continue to build and flesh out over time, but the key thing is actually that I don't want to just showcase how much you should be worth, but also show you and hand you the tools to grow beyond that and to learn to negotiate better, to learn to ask for the right amount of money in the right way. There's lots of additional tools and information I want to hand over to you. Everything's free. Check it out, vfxrates.com. Put in your information and you'll instantly get notified of how much money you should be charging per hour as a VFX artist. vfxrates.com.
Yeah, so my name is Ruben Mayer. I'm originally from Switzerland. I'm currently working at Weta as a lead FX TD. I mean, yeah, like you said, I've moved around quite a lot over the past years. I mean, going from Switzerland to Hungary, Belgium, London, both coasts in Canada, and then here. So
where have you not, moved to yet? It's probably an easier question.
Well, no, moved more like Asia and South America. That's kind of it, I think. Those are the continents I haven't been.
Yeah, I just noticed we haven't spoken on Skype in a while. So it's just like 2015. You're like, oh yeah, you can contact me at blah blah imageworks.com. So it's been a while. That's cool, man. And yeah, I guess like before we jump into it all, I mean, what are some of the big projects you've worked on to date that you're super proud of?
I'm usually not really proud of my work. Be better, So I'm just kind of a guy like proud, not. Let's say more enjoyed, because it's not definitely always the best movies, but what you enjoy the most. Mm-hmm. Like one of the last shows I really enjoyed working on, because we were like an amazing team, was Pixels. Mm-hmm. Although the movie really sucks, but the team was really great. You were like a small family and everything, so it was super interesting to work. Quite technical at the same time. So, but no, some cool projects. Otherwise, I think current one I'm working on is going to look pretty rad. The new Avengers. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a cool one.
I've been teasing my friends because a few of them are working crazy hours right now on Thor, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm being really harsh to them. Like, oh man, like, is this something you're going to be able to show your grandkids? And am I going to see you at the Oscars because it's Thor? Like he traded his hammer for a haircut. This is going to be great. Exactly. But actually, I think Avengers is going to be a fun one for sure.
No, it's going to be a fun one. Yeah, I kind of enjoy as well working in Valerian, even though it didn't have a huge success. But that's I think the first time I personally enjoyed that movie. So I was like, yeah, looks cool. I mean, not the best story, again, if you know the comics, but otherwise, yeah, it was a cool movie to work on.
Yeah, I interviewed the VFX supervisor, Scott Stockdack, a couple of weeks ago for that, and my buddy's the art director on it, Mark Simonetti. So, anything Luc Besson is always going to be, like when he's directing, is always weird yet like a fun journey, I think. So, I mean, I can't imagine what it'd be like working on a movie of that scale, but yeah.
We had quite a lot of shots to do on that one.
And just to jump around a little bit, but you as an artist, I mean, obviously now, you've accomplished a lot, but like going back to the beginning, like how did you start out? Like, were you just waking up one day and it's like, I want to do visual effects. I like being sleep deprived and stress.
I mean, I didn't plan that at all. It's really like at some point I was drawing some blueprints for like a sports center just as an interest because with my cousin we were thinking, hey, what could we do, with our life? And then I just asked a friend, hey, do you know any good 3D softwares? Where I could just make a 3D model of my blueprints. A day later, I got like a box of Max 2 with the free books and everything, and that's how it started, like looking at tutorials and everything and just learning the software. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, could be interesting. And then going one day after the other, it becomes a hobby, and then from a hobby it becomes a job, It didn't come from one day to the other. It's just like learning the softwares kind of got me to that point that, hey, yeah, that could be freaking cool.
Yeah, so you literally just like, all right, getting Max, sitting down and just getting into it. I mean, was it much of a learning curve for you?
Yeah, because I had literally no idea what I was looking at initially. Really like the dumbest questions ever, I had no understanding about animation and how it worked. So yeah, I mean, that was just playing around with primitive shapes, and I was super proud of myself and like, hey, we can make an animation feature, like all the kind of thing you dream of when you start, and then you get a cold shower in your face and you did, no, not going to happen.
Yeah, I remember getting a few of my friends to come over from school one day and it's like, oh, I'm going to show you, like I made Twister on the computer, and because I had the cow spinning around as a 3ds DOS, so it was like a iPass routine that made some particles that spiral around, and I was really proud of it. And my friends came over expecting Twister, and they were like, "Oh!" I think the exact words were "Oh," and so I could tell no one else was as impressed as I was, but for me it was a stepping stone.
Yeah, I had the same kind of things.
And I think it's kind of the interesting thing about visual effects too is that, like, the more I think about it these days, the more I realize that it's one of those unique occupations that we have that, you can't just dabble in our career. It is like you need to be obsessed and you need to do the hard yards. Otherwise, you're never going to take off. And other areas you could be like, oh yeah, I was a hairdresser for a while, then I went and did this and this, but with this it's like, no, like you spend a few years and then decide whether or not you're going to make it or you're going to fail.
No, you really want it. You need to love your job, because otherwise, there's no way you're going to, I mean, you're still going to find some gigs, but nothing interesting. I mean, it's going to be small things. I see it with like when I was teaching. Like some of my students, they were just there because they had nothing else to do. Mommy and daddy had enough money to pay for the schools, but then they never did anything with their career. And you had the few ones that really loved it that were there. And some of them actually I work with them here at Weta. So you typically see the ones who really love their job and they get the good gigs, and the other ones who just do it just to get an income,
Weta is one of those places, like it just occurred to me a second ago. It is one of those places that you go there and that you're going to bump into 100 people. It definitely collects a lot of the best people from all over the world. And like anytime I've popped in there, it's just like, it's weird because you'll see all these friends just like walking down the street from 100 different locations all over the world, all in the same place. And it's just like a weird clash of, of worlds. But I mean, it's definitely a place if you want to have a high school reunion and you go to Weta and you'll see all your buddies.
No, that's for sure.
That's cool. And I guess, just kind of jumping around, like I said, but like with your career, I do find like there are going to be people who are going to be successful, but then as you said, like, you're going to get gigs, but then there's other people who are able to travel the world, are able to pick and choose their projects and do what they want to do. And like in your case, I guess with your career, I mean, what do you think you've done differently that other people mightn't have done? Is it just more about saying fuck it and actually doing something instead of just thinking about it, saying, okay, I'm going to go apply at Sony? Or is it more about, just putting in the right amount of time with the right people? Or what are the kind of key trends you think that really get some people to take off with their career and other people tend to make the same mistakes of staying still and staying stagnant?
You got to be willing to take a lot of risks, I got to say, because, I mean, it is a challenge just with giving everything up, to try like, okay, let's move across, go overseas and this kind of stuff. Even more for me, because I already had like a family with a daughter when I started to move around. So I had to turn down actually quite some jobs because they were like small offers and everything. I was like, no. So everything I do, because it's a big risk every time for us, it has to be like a proper job offer, like I don't want to go like for 2 months. It has to be, you give me at the very least a 1-year contract, this kind of stuff. But I think it's, you need to work super hard, being willing to get like no in your face like a bunch of times and not giving up because of that. Because that's part of it when you think, you nailed it during the interview and then, oh, no, sorry, not interested. So you could easily give up, say, hey, why would I, But if you just persevere and just work hard and just learn from your mistakes, basically. Try to get the information. What was the issue? Why didn't you get me? Why was you the one better? What was you better at? And learn from that and kind of focus. Okay, that's obviously a lack in my knowledge. Let's focus on it, get better at it,
That's a good point. So without getting personal, because again, I don't want to like dive into like why you got a bunch of no's or anything like that, but like that's actually really brilliant what you just said about like, trying to find out like and learn from like whatever times that someone said yes or no. And like in your experience, and not just you, but other people, like what were some of the big, let's say, learning experiences that maybe, like I know someone at Weta right now that applied for a job, went to a job interview and talked trash about their previous employer and, almost cost them the job because of that. And like, and to me, that was like an interesting one. It's just kind of like, cause I got a call cause they'd worked with me. And they're like, something, they rustled a few feathers and we just want you to vouch for them. But, those are the sorts of things for me, I think I would learn. It'd be such a valuable lesson for me to be like, all right, never talk trash about employers because, they're going to think, well, what are you going to say behind our back? You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
I'm just curious, like, and it's not just you, but anyone else too. Like, has there been any kind of big realizations of, going to those interviews and, walking out, learning something new that you can apply to the next time around?
I mean, for me, it was more like, it's nothing personal, so I don't mind speaking about it. Like one of the times they turned me down is basically because they were like, oh, you don't have enough Maya experience. So, and you're working currently on feature animations, and we're doing real features, so you can't compare. The reason wasn't really that valid, but then again, I was like, okay, so you want me to know Maya better, so let's focus on it, get it to know it better. Other time was, oh, you don't know Houdini, because I didn't use it in that time. So, okay, let's just start to look into it, It's just, for me, personally, those were more the kind of things, but I've seen like same kind of the one you just explained of, like behavior issues, people, that, hey, the way they kind of trying to sell themselves and you can't see that. They kind of bullshitting you, a little bit because they really want it. So they're going to try to show better than what they really are. And unfortunately, they don't understand that, the people on the other end have way more experience. So those are kind of things that you can really notice quite quickly if it's like, okay, you're just selling me shit, or you really know what you're talking about. So there's, those are the kind of things I saw happening, but could be anything, right? Could be like, if you want to be more technical, you might need to be better at coding or this kind of stuff, depending on the position you're looking to get hired for. So,
Well, what do you think would be a good excuse? By the way, I totally jumped in this. Like, none of this is planned, so I'm just going to throwing 100 questions at you that I usually would not ask people. It's weird. But yeah, what would you say? Because this is something that I get asked a lot. Like, let's say that they say, do you know Maya? And you don't know Maya. What do you tell them? I think it's pretty obvious. You say I don't know Maya, but I'm just curious what you would say.
So like the first gig I had where they were using Maya, I never used Maya literally before, and they just reached out to me because they needed someone to basically rewrite the effects pipeline. And I never used Maya, I never used Python at that time. Was really only into Max and Max Script, and so I literally told him, so I never used it before, but you put me in a team that will use it, that knows it well. I'm going to learn it. At the same time, I'm going to work with you. So it's going to take me a few weeks and then I'm going to be up to speed. And that's exactly what happened. Like after a week, I was already rewriting like some of the ML scripts into Python scripts, just being surrounded with the right people. So you just got to show them that, you don't know it, but that's not going to be the main issue. As long as you have people that are willing to give you the chance and the time to kind of help you to learn it, to get the fundamentals. At the end of the day, it's just a package. It's a tool. You know how to work in a specific tool, then you just need to learn how to transpose that to another one. It's nothing different. So nothing to be scared about or to be ashamed because you don't know something. You can't know everything anyway. That's one of the cool things with our job. We're learning every day new things. I wouldn't do anything else where after like a few years you can't learn anything new because you've done it. No, this is a job where we have that chance. We get challenged every day.
It's problem solving, like especially being a TD. That's all you're doing because we both do a lot of teaching, you and I, and that's one thing I get occasionally students who they don't want to problem solve, and it's like, well, that's the first problem. Is if you don't want to figure this out, if you want me to tell you every single time you don't understand something, then what are you going to do when I'm not around? And yeah, I mean, that's part of our job, is just to be like, okay, well, how the hell am I going to do this? And then on top of that, how am I going to get it all rendered and all the other problems that come in? And yeah, it's definitely, you got to think on your feet. But that's really good. I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny, but you know, you're right. Like, there are going to be people who try to bullshit their way through everything. And I know one of the senior VFX soups at Scanline, his first job, they're like, do you know Maya? And he's like, yeah, I totally know Maya. And he stayed up all night with the books and learned Maya, and it's like literally winging it the whole way. And I would never in a million years do that, just because, you know, you're putting yourself in a false situation where you're also setting the bar really high. And like, I'd rather be honest and say, I don't know Maya, but I know 3D, and I've been doing this long enough that a package is a package, and I can, you know, pick it up. Just, you know, it might take me a bit longer. Having that honesty, I think, is important, because then they know that, you know, you don't know it and you're trying, and therefore they're going to cut you some slack rather than expecting you to be at A grade, you know, the minute you walk in. So, you know, I always think it's better to be honest than not.
It's always going to, turn against you, and then you might lose your job, your reputation, which is even worse than your job.
Yeah, and it follows you everywhere. So
it takes you years to build a reputation, but it takes you seconds to destroy it.
So for you, at the beginning of your career, like, where did you start out? Like, what was the first big gig that you did?
So I started freelancing initially, because Switzerland not having really like a lot of companies, and definitely not when it comes to features. That's what I was interested in. So I started freelancing. I had like a bunch of friends working around, like in France, Germany. So I started to get small jobs like this, kind of being able to build a small reel and everything. The first real gig I got was in Belgium, in Brussels, for nWave Digital. It was animation features. So that was the first real gig I got, where I didn't have to work at home and do all that stuff on my own, you know. So yeah, that was pretty cool, because like I said, I could learn Houdini, Maya, and Python finally, because that was something I always wanted to do. But at that time, Max and Python weren't really friends, so I didn't have
still any just getting acquainted now. Finally, I feel like.
Wow. I haven't followed the evolution of Max for the last 4 years, I gotta say, but.
Yeah, I was curious. What was your first gig like? I'm just curious, because I know with me, I'd been freelancing from home, like same deal, for years, and then I went to a place in Australia, which at the time was good. I feel like it's not a good company anymore, but at the time it was, and like I feel like my first 2 weeks there, I'd learned more than I had learned in 4 years of working by myself. But again, it does come down to the people you surround yourself with. But was that similar for you?
I definitely learned a lot of things, because again, new package, new programming language and everything. But yeah, I just didn't want to go home. I was so excited, you know, to be finally in a studio and everything, not having to be sitting at home 24/7. Yeah, my screen. I said, I just don't want to go home. And then super excited in the morning to go to work. And then after a couple of weeks, you get used to it. But that's kind of how it went initially. Yeah,
a few weeks until your spirits finally crushed.
Didn't crush. It's just like you get into that routine, you know? It's like, it becomes like your new everyday thing.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Like, I remember that studio I mentioned, I ended up moving 3-minute bike ride away, just so that way I could spend more time at work. So, you know, I think it goes back to what we were saying before. You got to be obsessed, because, you know, you can't do it as a hobby and expect to stick with it. But that's cool. And I guess, like, you know, obviously you do a lot of coding as well as being more of a creative as well. Like, for you, did you have a technical background growing up, or was it something that later you just kind of clicked your fingers and decided, I want to get into coding and scripting?
No, I always loved kind of more technical, like math, physics. And my first job, I started actually working as an electronic engineer. So really technical, and a lot of troubleshooting. Actually, that helped me a lot every day, because the way we learn to troubleshoot issues is something I'm applying every day. So I was always more technical than I don't consider myself an artist at all. I'm more like...
I'll stop calling you creative then.
You know, seriously, I'm more like that kind of guy. I love putting together workflows, building the tools, and then just handing it over. Then, you make it look pretty, you know? But if I have to do it, I will do it, obviously. But that's more my thing. It's more like the technical side of the job.
That's cool. Yeah, I guess like places like Sony and Mr. X, that'd be perfect, because I know they both really favor more technical artists than creative artists, you know what I mean? So... I'm sure that would have worked out pretty well. And
Mr. X was really cool for that, I gotta say. I spent a lot of time working on the tools and everything. So
I guess like probably your first really big break would have been going to the mill.
Yeah, I would say it was the mill. Like it was when they still had the film and TV department. When I wasn't working in commercials, so we were small teams and everything. It's like, okay, you only TD for entire show. So yeah, a lot of challenges coming with it. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, I gotta say. Really enjoyed it.
What was it like working at like the Mill London compared to where you'd worked previously? Because I mean, again, both being the Mill, because they are the Mill, and they definitely have a different work ethic, but also just in general, it's like a large iconic studio. So going to their kind of world and their pipeline, like how much of a contrast was it from the previous places you'd worked?
The main difference was it's like they really trusted you. You know, it was like, okay, we need you to do this, this, and this, and this, and then we didn't go through dailies and all the approval cycle you usually have in any other company. It was really okay. When I was done with something, I rendered straight to comp, and then we got the comp to be shown to the VFX. You know, wow. So yeah. But then again, I'm talking about the film department. I don't know exactly how the commercial side works, but yeah. So they really trusted us a lot, and we were able to work really fast like this. Like a lot of them back and forth with the comper. The comper, if he was good enough, was like, no, don't worry, give me whatever you have. You don't have to make it look pretty. I'm gonna take care about it, you know. And yeah, it was really interesting because a lot of communication between the two departments. We were sitting like almost like next to each other in a single room. So no, cool. It was. I like the rhythm we had in there.
And what are some of the shows you do, like Sherlock Holmes, Doctor Who, Merlin, stuff like that? Yeah,
so I started on Merlin. I had like I don't remember how many shots we had, like a couple of episodes, but yeah, I was the only effects guy on that one typically. So it was kind of when you used to work like from an animation feature company where you don't do overtime, you know, you have plenty of time to do your stuff, and then you have to deliver by Wednesday because on Saturday is on air. It gives you like some other kind of pressure, you know. So that was the main difference for me. It's like, okay, so it's not like we're gonna deliver the movie in a year and a half from now. It's gonna be okay. End of the week, it's on air. You know, gotta be ready.
I got one of those deadlines right now.
So, nice. Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I guess from there you went on to working at Mr. X in Toronto.
Yeah, correct.
And yeah, I am curious to kind of compare each place you've worked because again, I feel like all of these different places I feel like are so different in terms of like their workflow and pipeline. I'd love to kind of see like what your take was, like going from the Mill London to going to Canada, working for Mr. X that does a lot of commercial stuff, you know, big on Houdini, medium to large size studio. I mean, for you, like, yeah, how much of a change was it from working at the Mill?
One of the first big changes, other than just going overseas, obviously, that's when I had to start to learn Houdini, because till then I was using Max and Maya, both of them actually at the Mill as well together. And so it was again, okay, new package, you know, starting to learn new things. That's when I really started to work on features as well, because other than Dread at the Mill, where we just had like 2 or 3 shots, wasn't really working on features. So that was that new thing, excitement and everything, you know, new software, new kind of shows and everything. But yeah, the thing I really enjoyed it, because we were kind of like medium-sized team, you were able to be involved really in what you like to do. Like typically me, I love to have that technical side of it. And then they were like, okay, at some point they saw that I was good enough with it. I was like, okay, now you're going to start to help working, you know, writing the plugins for Houdini we're using, because we had a lot of internal tools for Houdini. So there was that kind of small shop where that allows you that really to be able to kind of do different things in the same department before they really split it. Because if you go like to Sony or whatever, you have really like different departments that are going to focus really on pipeline side, plugin side, whatever, solvers and everything. It's not really like the TD anymore, you know? So that was I learned a lot out of it, let's say it like this, because that's when I was able to make really like short work with real R&D.
And that's cool. Like what, for example, like let's say on Pompeii, like what were you doing on that?
I was focused mainly on the destructions on that one. So we had already like internal bullet implementations in Houdini. And then during the pre-production, we had like one of the dudes who worked on 2012 at DD. And they had their own implementations, but as well. And it was, hey, we had these kind of tools, that was really cool for us to work with. And then could we have the same? So yeah, typically that's where I came in, really like, okay, closing the gaps, basically, tool set with coming from those guys who had experience from other bigger studios. So yeah, I helped a lot with everybody's working on the instructions, basically, and the I/O as well for the data, because that was always a little bit challenging to get the data from Houdini to Maya. You always have like some kind of issues, inverted normals and the regular things. But so that's mainly what I did.
Like, what was the pipeline for something like that? Just more from bird's eye view. Let's say a shot comes in at Mr. X on Pompeii, and it needs to go through, initial modeling and match move, then goes through to, previous destruction. Like, what would be the steps that it typically would go through?
I don't remember the previous side really, because it was mainly like a storyboard-driven show. In this case, I don't remember really seeing a lot of previous. I might be wrong. Might just be my memory. But yeah, so
create, destroy, done.
Yeah. From my memory, kind of. Yeah. Rough, if we just ignore all the small back and forth you have always, but it was typically they modeled this town in a way, the town of Pompeii, that they could just switch parts of the town just with higher res models prepped specifically for effects, because we gave them a lot of requirements for everything we needed to be destroyed, because we don't want to have like typically non-watertight objects or this kind of stuff.
Yeah, closed surfaces and nothing intersecting.
Exactly. So yeah, we spent quite a lot of time in pre-production to make sure they understood our needs. And so they were able to kind of easily switch models from one shot to the other to give us exactly what we needed. So that was we had a really nice workflow going on that show. And then once basically we would just fracture a house, for example, we would send them back to them. They would start to texture all the interior faces and everything. And at the same time, we would then typically work on it. And once the shot was approved, we would just like export it as an Alembic file, send it to Lighting, and they would render it with VRA.
Cool. All right. Sounds
but yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward pipeline.
And I guess like I'm just curious, like how big typically were teams working on shots usually?
So for that show was the biggest team we had while I was there. We were like, I think 25 TDs working on that show. That was the biggest team we had by that time. But like on a shot, typically like for destruction shot, we would like split the task. You would have someone doing the rigid sims, then another one taking care about the volumetrics typically. So we would split it between one or three tasks depending on the amount of work. You would have like, if you would have some cloth, then there would be someone else who would take care about all the cloth. So we tried to keep like some kind of specialist for each task.
What's your opinion on that? Like, do you prefer to have like artists take, like, for instance, at least when I was at ILM, it was more an artist takes ownership of their entire shot, which I didn't expect to go in there. I expected it to be like very, machine conveyor belt, just you do your piece, then move on to the next. Yeah. And, I've definitely seen that a lot more recently, like Scanline, a few of the other bigger studios. I've seen they tend to do, one person does rigids, another person does the volumetrics, another person might be doing more secondary stuff, another person lights the shot. Like for you, like what do you think in your experience is like the better workflow?
I think they're both good, to be honest. It depends all on the TD, because some TDs are really going to be really good in one thing and definitely not going to be able to do another thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's case by case. So you got to handle that. They have both pros and cons. Because like typically, if you would really keep it like one guy with destruction, one volumetrics, the guy who's doing destruction, he's really going to be able to nail it, like a complex shot, because that's what he does. It's his bread and butter. Yeah. He knows exactly the solver inside out. That's what you can expect from him. The other thing, it's more like rewarding if you do the entire shot.
Yeah,
like on a personal level, because like typically you do everything, so hey, that's my shot, so everything you see in there is mine. It's not like, oh, he covered all my destruction with dust, and you get pissed, because that happened tons of time as well. Yeah. So I've been in both situations depending on what show I was on. I like both, I gotta say. But a lot of times I still prefer staying like more like on one task, so I can focus on that task, while I have someone else focusing on the other side of the shot.
Yeah. I think it's where I think you're right. It comes down to the scale of the project and like what the requirements are. If you have the time to sit down and take ownership of something and make it your baby, that's really rewarding. But when it comes to just the muscle memory of just doing the same thing, wax on, wax off, Karate Kid style, it means that you can just start getting in the zone, and that's you for the next few weeks, and someone else is, the next step in that conveyor belt process. So, I think I'm always curious to see what other people's takes on that is. That's cool. And I guess going to Sony, I mean, for you, I guess like just kind of looking at your career, I mean, what for you kind of drove you to move around a lot, like in travel? I mean, obviously, one thing is when you don't have a family, but when you do have a family, is it more you're looking for new challenges at the company, or is it more to do with the city and opportunities you can have for your family there, or like what usually for you is the kind of big driver that gets you?
It's both together.
Yeah.
It has to be like, for me, it's still been always like more the objective we had as a family where to live, and then I was trying to find the best shop at that place. Let's say it like this, because like typically we never planned to go to Toronto. We were always thinking, hey, my wife always dream was to be in New Zealand, so that was
she's watching Lord of the Rings, and it's just like I want to be there.
Even before that. I mean, she was dreaming it for 25 years, so
wow.
Way before Lord of the Rings. She just woke up one day like, hey, I want to live in New Zealand.
Cool, that's awesome.
So, but Weta wasn't really the easiest company to work at. So we had to find a backup solution, basically. And we were like, okay, Vancouver would be a really nice place to live as well. So the closest objective for us at that point was, okay, let's go to Vancouver and find a way basically to get there and find some work. And Toronto came in between because I was still waiting for offers in Vancouver. Nothing was showing up. And then I got that up in Toronto. I was like, hey, it's already a step closer. So that's why we moved to Toronto, and then stayed there for like 2.5 years. But challenges were not there anymore for me, really. And my wife hated the cold because it gets really cold on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So that was the point where she said, no, you got to find a job in Vancouver.
Cool.
So, just started to really look hard for a new job in Vancouver. And that's when we moved to Sony.
And going from Mr. X, I mean, again, what do you think are the big differences you would find between, let's say, the Mill, Mr. X, Sony in terms of, the way each studio works?
One of the big differences was the scale, because every time was, again, slightly bigger for me regarding at least the effects department and the tools we had available. Like typically at Mr. X, we had like restrictions about the amounts of licenses we would have, how many blades you would have on the farm and everything. Going to Sony, having way bigger farm, unlimited licenses and all that stuff. I was like, wow, it's getting like, hey, now I don't have to worry about all this kind of stuff, Cool. Just submit your stuff to the farm, without thinking about how long it's going to take to pick up,
Yep.
So that was one of the big things for me. And like the amount of people, more experienced people as well to work with. I mean, guys like Tav, who made the destruction workshop on CJ Society and everything, working with those guys was super cool. Because, I mean, you just heard their voice during workshops and this kind of stuff. And then, hey, work with those dudes, so you learn a lot of new things. So, super interesting.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, how big was Sony at the time in Vancouver?
We were close the company itself, I think we were close to 1,000 at some point. Like they literally grew from like, I think 200, 300, like to almost 1,000, like in over 6 months. It was kind of insane.
Crazy. Yeah. Every time I talk to anyone in Vancouver, it's just like, Vancouver is looking for about 700 effects TDs, right now, if you know anyone. And it's just insane, especially because I used to live in Vancouver, and when I was there were 3 studios, and only one of them was doing feature film work. And then like literally a month after I left, it's just like, all right, Alan's gone. Let's open the doors to feature film. So
it was insane. Like just in effects, I think we were close to 100 as well at some point. The last show I worked on, we were 54 on that show, just in effects.
And what was Pixels like? I mean, it seems like a fun project in terms of the type of work you guys are doing there. So, I mean, what was your experience like on that project?
It was super cool. I mean, because at first I was during my interview, I was like, I'm going to have to do just cubes, not that interesting, because I had in mind the original short movie and everything. But when I ended up there, I realized actually it was way more complicated than I was expecting. Like typically all the voxelizing process for the characters and everything was super complex. We had so many things to take care of, fix some kind of animation issues to prevent us to regenerate voxels on the fly and getting some flickering in there because everything was attribute driven basically for the shaders, all the noises and all that stuff, the patterns we got in there. So the slightest motion, like in a finger, done by animation would just destroy everything we had. So yeah, it was a super technical show at the end of the day, and I loved it because that's what you learn a lot with these kind of challenges.
That's cool. Was the process pretty slow or fast? Like let's say that you're doing like a level set to generate all the the cubes and you're working on shots. Like was everything pretty real time for what you're doing, or is it more like, all right, like this goes to this part of the process, let's let it bake for 2 days, come back, and then move to the next part, or how does that all work?
Yeah, I would never wait for 2 days for like typically a destruction sim. I'm willing to wait a couple of hours, and if it's more than that, I'm gonna revise my workflow to kind of optimize it. Because we can't afford, unfortunately, anymore to wait like days for something. Except it's volumetric sims. That's the only thing still what you can't do anything about it. It takes the time it takes. But when it comes to destruction, no, it was pretty fast. I mean, I don't think I saw sim must have taken an hour and a half maybe for any kind of destruction I had in there. So it was kind of like any other show when it comes to destruction. The only difference is instead of having like a prefactured object, you would just scatter properly in a specific way your cubes, and that's kind of how it was. And then kind of try to reproduce the physicalities of that object, but with cubes. But it wasn't. I mean, the destruction part of it wasn't the most challenging part. It was different. It was refreshing, because it's not the regular destruction you usually do on a daily basis. So that was cool. It was more like really like the voxelizing of the creatures that was the most challenging part.
Yeah, very stylized. It looks fun. I've seen, I think, half the movie, and you're right. It's not the greatest film on the planet, but it's I think that there's going to be movies like that it's more the concept that's selling the entire film. It's got nothing to do with who signed on to act in the film or anything else. It's like it's a bunch of iconic characters getting killed and coming to life, and come watch. I think it's cool. And like I guess from there, like when you finally did take the plunge to go to New Zealand, like what was that like for you and for your family? I'm guessing your wife was pretty. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just saying, like for you, when you finally did make the plunge and go to New Zealand, like what was it like for you and your family? Was it mission accomplished for your wife to finally get down there, or was she finally like, oh, this is not the New Zealand that I thought it was? Like I was thinking of Australia the whole time. This place is full of sheep.
She spent months in New Zealand a couple of years ago, so she knew what to expect anyway. But no, it was. I mean, it was like kind of like a relief. We're like, okay, we did it, so we don't have to move really anymore. So that was really like, hey, cool, relax. I finally were able to spend more time with my family, even though I was spending more hours at work. But then again, you live just next door. I'm literally living 5 minutes away from work. So I had time to go for lunch. I had time to go home for dinner, see the kids, go back to work after that, So we were able to kind of, breathe a little bit more, have more like a social life. Because I spent weeks not seeing my family literally in Vancouver. Because I left in the morning, everybody was sleeping. I got home like midnight or later, everybody was sleeping, So that's something from the past. Even though I can be working more hours, but like, I bring sometimes the kids to school or pick them up because again, school is 5 minutes away from work, So those are the kind of things that change our life, literally.
Do you know Dave Clayton? He's one of the animation directors, or the animation director at Weta.
No, not in person.
Okay. No. I think he was telling me, I think it was him that was saying that, one thing he's really liked is just the fact that, I mean, he's been there since 2001, but, but I just remember him commenting on the fact that like he loves the fact that he can go home every day, have lunch with his wife, and then go back to work. And again, like most other places, it's like you got to hop on the SkyTrain, and
exactly. You take like an hour or more to go to work, and no, that's something that doesn't exist here. But at least if you live like on the Miramar Peninsula, if you're in downtown, it could take like a little bit more, 20 minutes, but it's still nothing.
Like last time I popped over to Weta, like they were just building the new, I think 2 buildings, but like they were literally just taking up room anywhere they could. So like one of the 3 places, like it was near Park Road Post. It was one of the like an old high school that they had turned into a studio.
Big house. It's a really nice house.
Park Road Post is, but this was an actual, like it was just near.
No, I know
there,
which one. They call it Big House. It's
Big
just
house?
On the other side of the workshop, right?
Across
the street of the workshop.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we call it Big
so
House.
they still have it. Okay, I wasn't sure whether they ditched it or not, but
no, they never ditched anything. I think they just need to find extra places now.
They just acquire it or consume it. But I thought it was kind of funny is just the fact that like you are, it gets to a point where they're just like taking, we'll take a school, we'll take a fire department, we'll do whatever it takes, like just keep accumulating more space. I think it's really cool. And like for you, I guess again, like first day of going to Weta, I really like Weta. I've always wanted to work there, but I've never liked staff jobs. And I've never liked long-term jobs. So for me, it was always like during Lord of the Rings, all these other projects, it would be, I always wanted to just kind of come on during the DVD bonuses, like all the extra scenes and things that they would do. Cause I figured that way you go in, you work your ass off and you get out. And, every single time I was always in LA and I was just like, all right, I can't do it. But, I've always loved, as everyone does, like all the work that they do, but and I lose so many friends to Weta because it's kind of like once you go there, usually you don't leave unless you got a damn good reason to. So so like for you, what was it like day one of going there after moving around for so long and getting finally to New Zealand?
It wasn't as expected. I was expecting to get like a little bit of time to get used to the pipeline training, what you usually do with big shops. Fortunately, they were delivering a show. I mean, all the shows, and I was like, okay. We need you to go straight in, work, So I ended up doing a big shot that I never did really explosions like in production before. And it's like, hey, Houdini, I need you to do that huge explosion. I'm like, okay. You're like, okay, don't screw that up. First job, you get at a new company, So no, there was a little bit of stress, let's say, because you have those expectations. You don't want to disappoint, as well. And then like any time, it's just after a few weeks, you're like, that's fine. Get used to the place, to the people and everything, and you just do your job. But it was super exciting.
I think everyone has the same thing where whenever you start a new job, like even though it's not an ego thing, but you still want to prove yourself, like just kind of like you want to get there and do something and be like, okay, good, now the pressure's off, instead of like maybe thinking like everyone around me is thinking like, who the hell is this person? And
exactly. I'm typically that dude.
It's kind of like going to prison. You got to knock someone out and be like, all right, like
No,
so that's cool. And like you've worked on a bunch of stuff there. I'm just totally stalking your IMDb. So Avengers, Valerian, War of the Planet of the Apes. So Spectral. So what the hell is Spectral?
Spectral is a movie that ended up on Netflix at the end. It's kind of like some kind of weird experiments that went wrong in Hungary, and then you have like some US special forces trying to save the day, basically. So you have this kind of like ghost that just killing everybody, and that's that unit trying to they're trying to get in there and figure out what's happening, how to kill them, because obviously you can't kill them with traditional weapons. So if that dude from DARPA that goes there and try to figure that out, obviously.
All right, cool. Check it out. You had me at Special Forces and Ghosts.
No, it looks pretty cool. Pretty cool. Again, nothing new, It's like typical movie you would always see, but no, it was an interesting project as well. That's one of the bigger projects they had at the time with Houdini, because they were still really Maya-centric, And now we're going more toward Houdini.
It's been the past 2 years that they've kind of moved away from Maya for effects, right? Because I was kind of shocked for the longest time. Maya, probably since about 2003, I wouldn't picture Maya being like the go-to effects tool these days. So I was kind of surprised that they were one of the studios still pretty heavily doing a lot of Maya shots on a lot of their bigger projects.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many tools they built around Maya, right? So that's the other thing. So that's I guess one of the main reasons they kept Maya for so long, and we're still using it. But it's more like a UI than anything else at the end of the day. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And what's the work? You guys work pretty heavily in like deep, like compositing, for instance, a lot of the time, right? So
everything is deep comp.
Yeah. And for you, like, how much has that impacted your workflow?
Honestly, nothing.
Yeah.
It just made it easier, if anything.
Just bigger render times and everything.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even pay really attention to that if it takes more time or not. It always takes a bit more time because you have to generate your deep pass, but. I really prefer to do that, to have to worry about holdouts, because holdouts is something of the past with deep comp.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about any kind of issues regarding to that. And even if I want to rerender just one single element, I'm going to be able to make a proper slab comp.
Mm-hmm.
So I just can work on a specific element, put it back in my script, and then I render that from Nuke, and I'm good. I don't have to worry again. Like, hey, that's in front, that goes in the back,
Yeah.
It makes it just easier, generally.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, are there any other advantages that you found, like as an effects TD, working in Deep? Obviously, you're not going to get as many shots kicked back for tweaks if they've got more control in Nuke to adjust things. But yeah, what are some of the other advantages you found?
I don't know, to be honest. I never really thought about it before, but no, other than being able to get quicker iterations, because I don't have to wait for longer renders if I have to render everything together. And like I said, I can really render just one specific element, and then up I can go back. Like typically when you get work on a shot like on Apes, I was working like on one of those Avalanche shots where you have that. I don't know if you saw the data set.
I was just about to ask, is it out?
Yeah, it came out in June, I think.
Really? Man, I'm so behind. I just saw Wonder Woman the other day, and it was a big deal that I actually got to see like a movie.
So Apes came out, I think in June, June or July. But so anyway, you have that big shot of Avalanche coming down, going across a prison, and I had to care about the prison destruction. But so I could easily just comp my stuff with the Avalanche from the other dudes. So we didn't have to do like render it together. What would be a nightmare, because volumetric takes forever to render always. So they did it once, and I could just run my iterations with, again, the depth of the Avalanche with it. And so I wouldn't have to worry like about details you would have never seen otherwise. But if you had to just show it on its own, you get some notes that doesn't make any sense, and you just waste your time for stuff you would never see in the movie. So that's one thing I love with Deep. You see really what you're going to see in the final shot.
Actually, did you work with Sandy Sutherland at all? He was one of the effects TDs on Apes.
I didn't work with him.
Blonde guy, very, very blonde guy.
Hold on. I'm so bad with names. I'm better with faces. But I came quite late on the show. I really had help at the end of the show for the last 2 months, because I was still in Valerian at that point. And I was really focused on destruction. And we were quite a small team for the destruction. But the name ring a bell. I mean, I should be ashamed because...
I shouldn't repeat this, but the main reason I mentioned him is just because I just remember a few times where... like I'll say this, like I had a few friends who work on Apes too, and they'd be messaging me like, dude, like this is insane, like the movie just looks amazing, and it's just really inspiring. And then my buddy is just on like Facebook kind of writing these very oblivious things, like, just kind of disgruntled little comments, and I'd be messaging him like, dude, is everything okay? And he's just like, yeah, just, I'm getting revisions on like a pixel.
I mean, that's part of the job, unfortunately.
That's just it. And, I can say that because he was publicly, like, saying all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting because, like, obviously Weta is a place that you go there, you're going to work. And that's just part of it. But, like, at the same time, like, you're doing something that, like, there's very rarely a movie Weta does that isn't iconic. And it's kind of like, the way I look at it is that once the project's finished, you can never go back and change it ever again. And so you want to make it the best thing it can be, because I've had those projects where towards the end whatever happened, and you look back and you're like, even the compositor used the wrong pass, and you're like, damn it, like now every time I look at this thing, like I hate it because they blurred my thing, or they destroyed this or that. And so I feel like it is one of those projects, like, or one of those industries that we're in, that you are going to work really hard at what you do, but at the same time, like you finally get to sit back afterwards and be proud of what you've done, and hopefully you're on the projects that you want to be able to tell your friends about. And Apes, all these Avengers, all these types of projects, they're the ones that everyone's going to see, and you want to be able to stand behind your work and be proud of it. So
definitely
it's worth a few sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And for you now, like it sounds like you're pretty settled there. You just got residency?
Yeah, so we just got a residency, so that makes it much easier as well, because we don't
You're
have
not going to travel to another country in a couple of weeks or anything?
No. If anything, in a couple of years, we may want to go down on South Island, but settle down on South Island, but that's for later. Yeah. But now we're really planning to stay here, to have our kids growing up in New Zealand, becoming Kiwis.
What was it like? Again, you've worked everywhere, but like, let's say New Zealand compared to other countries, like, do you find it a bit of a different mindset?
Oh, it is. I mean, it's completely different. People are different. You
back.
feel you're like on a Pacific island because like people can drive. No, it's generally the lifestyle is way more relaxed than anywhere else. So like typically, when you come after you end up work, if you're in a big city, I mean, you always have that pressure. You feel stress in big cities. It's always there. Never goes away. You don't pay attention to it, and you really realize it when you go away from it. That's when you realize, hey, wait. I mean, it wasn't really healthy where I was before, because like coming out of work late here, I mean, it's super quiet. Could be even too quiet sometimes for some people, but I really enjoy that because you work a lot, but then you go home. It's peaceful.
I like
so.
That.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that I enjoyed here.
Yeah, Australia and Canada, Australia and New Zealand, I guess have that, that joking rivalry that we have. But like, for me, I feel like Australia and New Zealand are, almost identical in a lot of ways. And yeah, I feel like if anything, New Zealand has the advantage of being much smaller, which I can kind of appreciate a lot. So yeah, I like the kind of vibe, especially Wellington, more than anything. It seems like a really beautiful place. And good vibe to it as well. Just, got to get used to the accents.
Oh yeah, that's one of the hard things you got to do here. But no, it is beautiful. I mean, you don't have to drive far away to just have like some amazing beaches, and then you can just relax in the sand, and even like just go for lunch at the waterfront, and it's super cool.
It's cool. It's really cool. And I guess like right now, looking back, I mean, if you want to talk about, we'll talk just for a couple more minutes, but I guess with Apes, like what was some of the stuff that you're doing on that? I'm kind of curious, so I can check out the film and be like, I know, someone did some cool stuff.
I had two big shots and like two smaller ones where it was just background stuff, but needed some smaller destruction. But it was mainly two big destruction shots. One, we had, like I said, that prison that gets destroyed by the avalanche. So it's a lot of metal deformation and all that kind of stuff. And the other one was like they have that big wall with logs that get destroyed by explosions. And I had to do the post-explosion stage where everything collapses in the fire, and all that stuff. So, cool. It was pretty cool.
That's really awesome. And just going back to what we're talking about at the very, very, very beginning, but like, I guess for any other effects TDs who kind of want to break in the industry, or they want to follow your footsteps and, travel around and work on cool stuff, like, I guess, do you have any advice for up and coming artists in terms of how to break into the industry or how to, really kind of grow their career?
I mean, get a good reel.
Yeah. or just download someone else's, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that as well. That usually doesn't really work well for that person, but
no, it does.
Because that comes out in after a few days, people know it. So then you kind of.
I've had people send my reel in to me with their name on it.
No way.
Yeah, I've had it a few times now. But so you think having a solid reel is critical?
If anything, you got to show that you're capable to do, and not just a copy paste of a tutorial. You can't follow a tutorial like as a reference, but don't do the exact same shot with the same settings. I mean, use it just as a baseline to kind of tell you what to do. But because I've seen that so many times, like when people were asking me, "Hey, we got that dude, send us a reel. What do you think about it?" I'm there, tutorial. And at that point,
that's the thing. You want to take ownership of the shot. Because otherwise, like, what's going to happen as soon as they do a different scale or a different environment?
I don't need someone who just can copy settings. Just listen to a video and do the same thing. I need someone who understands how it works. So, of course, you can expect the same thing from a junior than from a senior. But again, as a junior, we don't expect like a reel with like 50 shots of like class A destruction or whatever. You better have like a single shot, but you really well done.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you think it's better to have like one good shot opposed to 5 mediocre shots?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
I was lining up the easy things, but
Oh yeah, no. Again, the expectations are not the same, and that's something I had struggled with when I started because I expected, I need a lot of structuring, a lot of stuff, but my reels weren't great at all because of that. Instead of just focusing on one thing and doing it well, and to show you understand the process, where it starts, how it ends, and that's what you need to know to have from a junior. Typically, it's just understanding where you are in the that workflow.
I think it'd be really intimidating too. Like I remember, like I would get rejected. I'd apply for a job when I'm like 15 and not get it, and I'd be like, okay, back to the drawing board. I'm gonna cut a new reel, and I'd start coming up with ideas for the reel or whatever. And yeah, you know, like suddenly it's like blocking out 5 minutes of CG that you're gonna knock out yourself or something. It's just, you know, like it's very easy to want to skip to the end and end up with a pile of crap. And I think if I had realized early on, just 2 or 3 good shots that show I can do something, like I feel like it's better to want your employer to ask for more than to feel like they've seen too much. And they're like, oh, if only you hadn't shown me that one shot, you know, I'd be calling you. But, you know, and even if it is just like one of your student pieces is still on there, and it might be the difference between $30 an hour and $60 an hour, because that one shot kind of put you into the student bracket instead of it being the professional bracket. So less is always more. Yeah, no, totally.
I don't think I ever had a reel even reaching the 2 minutes. I always kept them short.
Yeah, I was just doing a webinar recently about show reels, and like that's the thing about mine is like I'd never wanted to be more than 90 seconds. I have a reel now which probably is about 5 minutes, but the thing is that reel isn't designed to get work. It isn't designed for employers. It's designed for clients. It's a sample reel, because you want depending on the type. If you're doing a lot of freelance, you want clients who can call you up and be like, yeah, 2 minutes 39. We want you to do that for us, and you're like, all right, great. Well, you know, rather than if it was an artist reel, less is more. You want people to get excited.
Yeah, you're targeting different people also.
Exactly. I guess like if people want to find out a little bit more about you, where can they go?
I have my website, aespid.com, so aespid.com. Yeah, there's my LinkedIn and my MDB profile. I mean, that's kind of it.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, again, thanks for taking time to do this.
Yeah, I know. One-on-one.
Cool.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that episode. Thanks again to Ruben for taking time to do this episode. I had a blast. It was really cool to catch up. And yeah, I hope that you gain a lot from this episode. We definitely covered a lot of really great stuff. And that is it for this episode. If you want to check out the show notes, go to www.alanmckay.com/105. So 105, and you'll be able to download the episode, check out the show notes, read all the quotes, the links, all that good stuff, and loads more as well. And if you get a chance, please leave a review on iTunes. It would mean so much to me. I will shake your hand and buy you a beer if I ever meet you. So I'll leave it there. Next episode is coming up soon. It'll be episode 106 with the Redshift developers. So if you're not familiar with the GPU renderer Redshift, which is killing it at the moment, then this is going to be a really cool episode talking with a few of the developers there about the renderer, about the industry, about beer, and really terrible Norwegian alcohol, thanks to Alf Laval and his gifts whenever he came to visit. So I'll leave it there for now, and keep in mind that it's coming close to the end of the year. Set some goals. Think of ways that you can really conquer next year. I'm definitely going to be devoting a lot of December to helping aid any way I can in that part, and there'll be a lot of content around that. Until then, rock on.